Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. What a fun day. What a fun day again today was, as watching the Trump crowd kind of flirt with throwing him under the bus as more comes out around the January 6th committee hearings, as more information, as more awakening, as more people are paying attention. Again, the Jim Jordan frame, nobody's watching. I think a lot of people are watching, especially that segment of the population that really never pays attention. I think now kind of piqued their interest. When you go, we almost had a constitutional crisis. Democracy almost over. Now, the fun in this is watching the inner circle, the very best people. Remember, the folks who surrounded Trump throw him under the bus, and one of those very interesting names, this Amy Kramer. She was one of the January 6th rally organizers. She co-founded the group Women for Trump. The grab her by the you-know-what people. The people who wore the shirt with the arrow pointing south going, grab me here, Mr. Trump. Pushing back against his statements. Evidently, she's not happy about what happened in Alabama. She wanted, she wanted Mo Brooks. And the president endorsed someone else. And so she came out very, very forcefully, very angrily, as reported over at Politico. She said Donald Trump is disconnected from the base. And I'm going, hold on a second. Was he ever really part of the base? Did you ever see him pull up in his limo to the barbecue roast? Did you ever see him show up to the trailer park in his no? She goes on to say it's time for those of us in the movement to get back to basics, back to our first principles. I have no idea what those are. She says we were here long before President Trump came along, and we're going to be here long afterward. Yep, that's what she said. And what's interesting is you knew this was going to happen eventually. You knew that once you let the genie out of the bottle, that they're going to go even further to the extreme because, well, this is what happens with extremist movements. I don't know what the first principles are. And maybe that's. I would love someone to explain the first principle of MAGAism, and what it's going to look like once Trump is no longer there. Because understand, Trump has no core values. This is the part that I've been talking about from the beginning, from 2015. There's no core value here. The only core value, if there is one, is loyalty to Trump. It's all about him. It's feeding his narcissism. It's feeding his self-centeredness. And look, these hearings have really highlighted that. It's all about him. It's all about his crowd size, his hand size. It's all about that. It has nothing to do with policy. It has nothing to do about making lives better. It has nothing about first principles. What is she talking about? Now, I do find it interesting. Again, this is one of those moments where you look at how quickly people are going to start bailing on him. Dr. Oz, our TV shill of a doctor, Senate candidate here in Pennsylvania. Interesting how married up to Trump during the primary, got squeaked by in the primary. Now the candidate now running from Trump, shifting the messaging away from Trump, moving well away because I think he's reading the tea leaves. When 60% of the country is saying, you know what? I think he did something. We should be holding him accountable for the crimes that were committed on January 6th. Now, look, there are still a couple of the people who bought the hat and still have the T-shirt and still are flying the flag. Their numbers are dwindling, but they're still out there who say, oh, it's all a hoax. The majority of people, when 60% of the country agree that maybe we should be holding somebody accountable, that's to steal a Joe Biden line. That's a BFD. Kind of a big blanking deal. And it's going to get bigger, especially as these hearings continue. And there's one going to happen on Thursday. And now I guess they're going to push the other ones off because now new information, more people coming out of the woodworks, more people going, hey, that guy that demanded my loyalty, not repaying that loyalty. So more people saving their skin, more rats jumping off the ship. Interesting moments. Now, speaking of rats, you look at the Tuesday hearing, and Rusty Bauer, the Arizona speaker, everyone was, oh my gosh, he's a hero. And look, yesterday we talked about it here on the program. He did. Look, he came out, he told the truth. He was very emotional. He was very authentic. It was good stuff. And I said yesterday, I said, look, the reality is he did the right thing at the right time. He did what he was supposed to do. He upheld his oath. But no points. No points. This not a great guy. He told the story about how he was being, just being harassed and being pushed and all of the stuff that came out of this. And today, this is the brilliant part of this. Today he says if Trump's the nominee, and if it was up against Biden, he'd vote for Trump again. I mean, Can you do that again? This is the kind of stuff that's quite remarkable to me. But it's the world that we now find ourselves. That again, it's back to this ideology over sanity. And it's going to be interesting to see where these committee hearings go over the next couple of weeks. Like I said, they're going to push the last two off into July because, like I said, more information coming. But going to be interesting. Now, the committee is ramping up security for members because, of course, the amount of threats and intimidation being pointed at those lawmakers being ramped up. Now, I don't know why you're going after the lawmakers who are just sitting on the committee, letting the very best people testify, but this is where we are. Let's go to the phones. We've got CJ on line 1 from Madison, Wisconsin. CJ, what's on your mind?
Well, I'm one of those mega Trumpers, Rick.
Hit me.
I am one of the mega Trumpers for the policies that kept us with a secure border and inflation not at 8.6% or 239,000 just last month of illegal, undocumented people coming across the border. So no matter what happens to Trump, and you guys can fantasize about what you're going to do to him, but November is coming, and I tell you what, you're going to be just amazed at the amount of people that miss his policies because you guys won, and we're living in a Democrat economy. We're living in a Democrat world right now where Russia never invaded Ukraine when Donald Trump was president. And he didn't
need to because he didn't need to because he was Putin's puppet. So what's your point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My point is that we're living in your president, your nominee, your candidate, and he's a disaster.
Yeah, he's our president.
No matter what happens to Trump, we got the red wave coming because we want our country back as your party's destroying it by everything that you want to just look the other way
Nobody's looking the other way, CJ. Nobody's looking the other way. There are very real problems. And Joe Biden was left with a ton of problems left by Trump. There was nobody at the wheel for months. And one of the things that we're finding out because of this committee is that there was nobody doing anything the last several months of the Trump administration because he was fixated on his reelection campaign, fixated on rigging the election, fixated on fantasy. So when you say that he has all these great policies, it's just not there, CJ. Yeah, okay, we can have the hate and division and the kind of stuff, the angry stuff that you want to go after. But the reality is he did not do great things for this economy. He inherited a good economy, and he ruined it. One of only two presidents to have massive job losses. So, yeah, we're going to have the Trump economy back, CJ. I appreciate the call, man.
During the pandemic work.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. I appreciate it. Good talking with you. But this is one of those things. We can fantasize about what is, and the Democrats are going to get beaten and all this stuff. Yeah, look, inflation is hurting. It's true. But when Biden took office, the reality of the moment, when Biden took office, he inherited a massive, and this is what happens to Democrats a lot. And I don't defend them very often. Some of their policies suck. But, this is what happens. They inherit a massive mess. When Biden took office, there was no transition because, Trump didn't concede or help move along the transition of power. The country was in chaos. We were losing jobs. We were in just a mess. And yet here you've got guys like CJ going, no, it's all Democrat policies. And you've got an obstructionist Republican Party who will move nothing along. For instance, I look at someone like Marjorie Trainwreck Green, who first went out there pointing fingers. Yeah, the baby formula. Voted against the infant formula Supplemental Appropriations Act. Voted against doing anything to help actually fix the policy, the problem. Yet we did nothing to address what really is the problem, which is mass consolidation, which is, you could argue, Trump's tariff on getting formula into the country, which actually I supported. You could argue a lot of things. But there's no help from the other side. And my problem is we live in a country right now where, depending on which side you've bought the hat, you're rooting for one person or the other. And I'm not that guy. I wanted Trump to succeed. You never heard me say, I hope he fails. I supported policies that I thought would be helpful for us. And I was against the things that I thought were bad. Same thing with Biden. The things that I think are positive, I'm all in favor of. We've got to get out of this mindset that I'm on team red or team blue or I bought this hat or that hat, or I'm loyal to this guy. I am on nobody's team 100% of the time. And this is the stuff that drives me insane. I'm 100% this guy. Well, you've just shown me how stupid you can be. Most certainly scary, scary times. And the frightening part of this is it's going to get worse before it gets any better. Because the people who have bought the flags and the hats and they're going to be angry. And look, every one of the people I know who have the MAGA hats, some of the most angry people I've known. And using this inflation that is global. And I love how it's all Joe Biden's fault. Joe Biden did the inflation. It's global. And we're not even seeing the worst of it. That's the part that's incredible to me. And I guess it shows how short-sighted we as Americans can be. And we come back and talk a little bit more about Rick Scott. And we'll maybe get a thought about what Rick Scott thinks, the Republican senator from Florida, what he thinks of Americans and what his ideas on how we solve the future and what policies our good friends in the GOP will bring us when and if they win in November. Because I know there are some folks who are hoping we're going to bring back those Republican policies that were so great for the working class. What could those policies be? When we come back and talk a little bit about that, also love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. Back after this. Stick around.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, said that Americans are the most spoiled people on earth. That's right, you're spoiled. You're spoiled. You expect $2 a gallon gas. You expect food. You expect housing. You expect jobs, safety. You expect stuff. Social Security when you get old. Social safety net that they've been destroying for years. You know, those great Republican policies of hooray, you're on your own, brother. Yeah, that's what they're going to bring. And understand, Rick Scott, honest, I give him credit. I give Scott credit, honest, that he came out with his policy, which is to destroy every federal program every 5 years. And maybe possibly some of them will come back. So all you folks who are depending on Social Security to be there in your retirement and old age, they've been wanting to gut that from the beginning. All the folks who think Medicare is going to be around for you, they want to gut that. They've been wanting that for decades. There's nothing new there. That's what they're going to get you. They're going to raise taxes on the working class. And for all my working class Republicans who go, no, they're going to fight for me. Yeah, they're going to fight to take from you so that they can give to people like Rick Scott. Now, the president has come out and called for a 3-month federal gas holiday on the federal gas tax. I said months ago this is what should have happened when he came out with we're going to release a bunch of oil from the strategic reserve. I know this doesn't help or work, but symbolically it shows, hey, we're trying. It's a political move more than it's an economic move. It's going to put a couple of pennies into people's pockets. It's a show of something. Our problem really is we use too much. There's too much. We're using too much, or there's not enough capacity. So either we've got to consume less, or we've got to produce more. There are more leases out there. Companies aren't drilling. Do we need more refining capacity? Yeah, but the question is this a direction we should be going? We can't have that conversation in this day and age. Let's quick go to the phone lines. Got Alice on line too. Alice, how are we doing today?
Well, I'm not crazy, at least. So, anyways, what I wanted to say was, your previous caller is a perfect example of the MAGA movement. They're ignorant of the entire world that's going on because they don't realize, because, of course, they listen to Fox News and OAN, so they just think that this stuff's going on here in the United States. Because, they live in this little fantasy world, and it's reinforced by the whack jobs over at Fox and OAN and Newsmax. And the second thing is, a perfect example, hate. Hate and anger. Well, the rest of us are just trying to get along, but these old MAGA folks, boy, they just want their little fantasy world. And as for Rick Scott and his nonsense, don't you just love how they come right out and tell them what they're going to do, and they still run and go, yeah, that's my man. That's it. I don't want no Medicare. I don't want no Social Security. I'll just die along the street. They're all nuts. But you have a good evening, Rick.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate it. No, I mean, like I said, I give Rick Scott credit. He's honest. He's telling you what he's going to do. So when they get it, when they do it, don't be shocked. Don't be surprised by sadly what is going to come out of this. Now on the gas holiday front, it's going to be a couple of cents, which I got to tell you, I think is just going to be absorbed by the companies, and it's going to go into their pockets. We probably won't see a lot of it, but again, like I said, I think it's partially political. Now this is kind of the moment that had 30 years ago. We've been moving away from using so much fossil fuel and going in other directions. Yeah, we'd be in a better place. But We can't do those things politically because, well, we're mired in this my team, your team thing. And it's crazy. Do we need more refining capacity? Yeah, because right now, evidently, the refineries are at capacity. So they're claiming, the oil companies claiming, we can't produce anymore. Do I believe that? I don't know. I don't know that I believe it or not. I believe nothing coming out of corporate America these days. What I do know is they're wildly profitable. They're making huge, enormous amounts of money. And is that a bad thing? Well, I would argue in a moment of high inflation, I would argue gouging is something that should be looked at. Because we were told, competition is supposed to lower prices. But when they've got a commodity that you have to have, and it's an input into everything that we do, into all of our products, food and energy or food and transportation and everything in manufacturing and everything we do, they got you by the short hair, man. And they know it. So this, again, is one of those moments, and I've been calling this for decades. We need a Manhattan project kind of mentality on getting us energy independent and other energy sources. How hard is this? And why does it take crisis to make us go, maybe we should be doing this stuff? No, what's going to be interesting, and here's where the sad reality is. Democrats are probably going to take a beating in November. Republicans will probably take the House, maybe not the Senate. And we're going to have a divided government for 2 years, which means nothing's going to get done. 2024 is going to come around, and we're going to have more infighting, more of this division. And this is the reality of our system, how broken we are. It's us. Again, I don't blame our political leaders anymore. I blame us because we're broken. We can't seem to agree on a direction on where we want to go. For the next couple of years, nothing's going to get done. And we're going to continue to get angrier and angrier and more divided and more divisive. And corporate America is going to continue to do very well, thank you very much. And that's by design, I believe. I keep saying that, we're pitted against each other, right, left. We're pitted against each other, male, female. We're pitted against each other, black, white. We're pitted against each other in all of these division spaces. We're deliberately sliced and diced and segmented off so that we can eat each other. When the real fight is not right, left, or any of those things, it's top down. It's the moneyed interest versus the rest of us. The communities across this country that are broken because corporate America made these decisions and pushed for policies that allowed them to do it. How about we start talking about that? How about we start fighting to get a seat at those tables? Just my thought. Love to hear yours. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. When we come back, Jared Yates Sexton is going to be here to share some thoughts on the January 6th hearings, what's going on in Georgia, and, well, whatever else we can bang around. Quick break, right back.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So still spending a lot of time thinking about the hearing on Tuesday and the voices that came out of that. And like I said, I think Tuesday's hearings were the most compelling, the most jaw-dropping. Again, like I've been saying, these are the best people. These are the people who surrounded the Trump sphere. And what I'm most taken by is how the MAGA sphere has just kind of just ignored this. It's always something else. There's always a justification for what is an insurrection, what is sedition, what was. If you watch these hearings, the plan, the plot, the scheme overturn the election, steal the election. I'm literally amazed at the level of justification. But here to share some thoughts on, well, what came out on Tuesday and maybe where this goes. I've asked our good friend Jared Yates Sexton to come talk with us. Jared's an author, political analyst, and host of the Muckrake podcast. Make sure you check out that podcast. Also his book, American Rule, How a Nation Conquered the World but Failed Its People. Jared, thanks for taking time for us.
Well, thanks for having me, buddy.
So let's talk about the big hearing there. Are you surprised by what came out? I mean, for me, Tuesday's hearing, by far the most compelling in that you heard from the very best people saying the very worst things.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think I've lacked my ability to be surprised by any of this at this point. I mean, literally, there's nothing that could come out about what Trump or any of his cronies said, did, tried to do at this point that would actually shock me. I mean, to be honest, they have him dead to rights. And what surprises me more is sort of the framing around this thing, how it's being handled, what's being done with it. I mean, at this point, we are sort of drowning in proof that there was an attempted coup in this country. And the fact that it even has to keep going forward, the argument has to be made that he should be held accountable or any of these people should be held accountable. There's a lot of disturbing stuff around this, but I have to tell you, I'm no longer surprised by anything that comes out about any of them.
No, and look, truth of the matter is I never thought I was going to be surprised because, you know, like you, I've been following this from the beginning and my expectations very low, but to hear these people under oath and to hear them come out and tell the truth while, you know, simultaneously in public saying a whole bunch of other things, that to me was kind of, you know, I guess kind of shocking in that they still have some honor and some fealty to the rule of law, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be careful how you throw around the word honor, but, you know, but in all of this, you know, it goes back on January 6th. We've seen these texts, of course, that came from people like Sean Hannity, even Donald Trump Jr., who behind the scenes were saying, you know, we have to do something about this. We have to stop this thing, please. Like, this is wrong. And then immediately went on the air, defended it, and basically tried to give Donald Trump any sort of excuse for what he did. The people around him knew that he lost. Donald Trump, I have to tell you, the one thing that comes out of this is I don't ever know if I can tell you what is in Donald Trump's psyche, whether or not he knew or didn't know or he convinced him. I mean, a chronic serial liar like somebody like this, you never specifically know where their mind is, but the people around him knew full and well that he had lost and that they were committing crimes, which makes this entire thing even more infuriating, which is that there was a conspiracy to overthrow the government of the United States of America. And now we want to play this tap dancing game about who knew what and when and whether or not there was an intentional crime. But I mean, these are full blown criminals. There's no other way to.
And now you have the sycophants, the MAGA world, who are justifying it and now trying to poo-poo it all off by saying, well, no, it was all about his policies and we, you know, and we're going to push back. And you go, well, what policies? And we're taking our country back. In fact, just had a caller say, we're taking our country back. And you go, well, where?
Yeah, and you know, the thing about the Donald Trump presidency, and anybody who paid attention knew this, there was a lot of talk about, you know, giving the country back to the workers or the American people. And meanwhile, what happened during his presidency? The richest of the rich made $1 trillion over a 4-year period. The only major accomplishment legislatively that anybody can point to was a tax cut that was disastrous and redistributed wealth from the bottom up. I mean, everything they said was a lie. At this point, it is a cult. It is a group of people who identify with Donald Trump. They identify themselves as Trump supporters. And I think it also is evidence of the fact that when you are part of a cult like this, you're willing to suffer or endorse anything, including, again, a coup to overthrow the presidency and the government of the United States.
But we kept the immigrants out.
Well, that was never even actually a purpose of Donald Trump, because as we know, there's nothing better for these people than to bring immigrants in and exploit them. You know, the cruelty was all performative, and the way that Donald Trump's presidency worked and the people around him, it's a big giant pageant. That's what it's always been. It's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of empty promises, and a lot of empty concerns. I mean, we all know this, that it's one thing on one side and then it's professional wrestling on the other.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's all professional wrestling on the other. You listen to the Rick Smith Show here with Jared Yates Sexton, author, political analyst, host of the Muck Rake podcast. Make sure you check that out. Also, his book, American Rule, How a Nation Conquered the World but Failed Its People. We'll get links out on social media how you can take a look at that. Now, I want to talk about your state of Georgia because, clearly you ended up having your Secretary of State as one of the folks who, got a little airtime there. Hero, guy just doing his job. Goat, where do you put him?
Well, first of all, anytime somebody says, let's talk about your state of Georgia, I'm always like, do we have to? I mean, really, being ground zero for all of this stuff, it's just terrible. No, the thing with Raffensperger is, in one way, this is a person who got on a phone call with Donald Trump who tried to pressure him into overturning a rightful election. And on that, you have to commend them. But like Mike Pence, I mean, the rot goes so deep. Raffensperger running in this primary basically went ahead and defended Donald Trump and, tried to tie himself to his leg, which is... Mike Pence basically at this point has made his entire platform. You know what? Maybe I should have been hung. I don't know. That's really who these people are. On one hand, they can have these moments of quote unquote courage, but on the other hand, I mean, it's a group of just absolutely dribbling sycophants who are in a movement and they know that their only chance of power is to hold on to that leg, regardless of even if people are breaking into your house and threatening to kill you.
Yeah, but Trump says he won by 400,000 votes in your state of Florida, but only wanted 11,800.
I say I can fly, and it'd be a problem if I jumped out the window. I mean, really, in all of this, it's a really problematic thing. You look back, I always tell people, if you want to know anything about Donald Trump and these stolen elections, look back in 2016 where he said that exactly 3 million people had fraudulently voted. And that was the number that he lost the popular vote by. I mean, this is a guy who engages in the worst kind of toxic self-fulfillment fantasies. And in all of this stuff, it is literally just a cover story to give him what he wants. In terms of trying to overthrow the election, I mean, literally, he could have made up any fantasy, any big lie that he wanted to. It was all about power all along.
So the question now becomes, out of this, does any of this matter? I mean, is this going to actually turn into anything? Will we actually hold anybody accountable? Because I think what you have is you have people who are in their camps. Who, depending on which hat you bought, you're going to be in your camp. And it will come down to that 5-6% in the middle who are usually the least informed, the least active, the least educated, the least concerned, who are maybe in this moment paying attention. Do you think it's going to matter?
Well, a lot of what's disturbed me about this entire thing is what has been the purpose. What is the rhetorical point of the hearings? And, in one part, you can argue it's trying to get Merrick Garland's attention, but I don't know what's going to get his attention at this point. We've seen one leak after another from the Department of Justice that they probably don't have any hands left from ringing them. I don't know if they're going to be held responsible. A lot of this is going towards the midterms, but also a lot of it through Liz Cheney, Mike Pence, a lot of these people, and even the commentariat at the United States. You're seeing a lot of people who are trying to launder the Republican Party. They're saying this isn't a GOP problem. This is a Donald Trump problem. This isn't about the donors who funded this and organized this. It's about Donald Trump. He's the problem. What this is going to turn into, I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that I have lived in America long enough to watch a lot of very wealthy, white, powerful men escape consequences of their actions. So I'm not exactly holding my breath, but I'm really hoping something good comes out of it.
You bring up the thing that I've hit on from day one. I want to know the moneyed interest. I want to know who funded it. I want to know who's behind it. I want to know who planned it. I'm not concerned about the people who defecated on the floor or urinated on the desks or broke the windows so much. I want to know who the money behind the curtain is, the people who benefited from all of this. Look, Trump's part of it. Yes, I want him held accountable. Sure, but it's that cabal of cash that created this. All of these groups, all of these extremist groups, all of the funding that flows into that. That's where I think we need to spend our time spending more effort digging into.
Yeah, I want to make this very clear. The January 6th hearings have completely dodged any mention of this. Sheldon Whitehouse, before they started, basically sounded the alarm that it was not going to go there. Meanwhile, the same people who paid for and organized January 6th are the same right-wing donors who continually go after organized labor, they go after public education, and have more or less bought the government. of the country and basically control things from behind the scenes. If we do not deal with them, not only will this happen again, but this erosion of democracy and rights and human dignity is going to continue. Those are the people that we definitely need to pull the curtain back from, show who they are, and install what they're doing, because otherwise it's going to continue.
And this is why I keep coming back to this frame, because I have a lot of MAGA people who want to fight on the right-left frame. They want to divide, they want to divide because we're equals. They want to divide us in the working class. And I go, no, it's not right, left. It's not male, female. It's not black, white. It's not gay, straight. It's none of those things. It's top down. It's the moneyed interest versus everyone else. It's the old John Edwards frame of two Americas. It's theirs against us, or the Occupy Wall Street, the 99% versus the 1%. And in this case, the 1% of 1%. That's the frame we need to be talking about, and they've gone nowhere near it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason, and it's because most of the people, including the Democrats on that committee, are funded by a lot of the same people, or they don't want their donors to be exposed. It's a consensus in Washington, D.C. You stay away from the donor class. You don't mention them. You don't talk about what they're doing behind the scenes or the actions that they're carrying out. In all of this, we have a group of people who have incredible concentrated wealth who are spreading conspiracy theories. And the conspiracy theories are always focused on taking the brunt of the blame away from them and putting it on marginalized communities. And what's that do? It divides us. It makes sure that we make less money. We have no chance at putting together a populist coalition. And it's all about taking the spotlight off of them. And again, this is a situation. January 6th was a major case in which a group of wealthy donors tried to overthrow the government. And we're not talking about that. And that's where all this should lead, but it unfortunately isn't.
Any hope of that? Any hope that turns, maybe, that there's a chance there's maybe another hearing, maybe somewhere?
I don't see it in the hearings. I'll tell you the truth, and I think you and I come from a similar background. It's going to take a grassroots, bottom-up approach to make this happen. It's going to take a progressive movement. It's going to take organized labor. Every time that I see a new shop is being opened up, every time there's a Starbucks or an Apple store or an Amazon warehouse that gets organized, it starts to take shape that a lot of people are coming together. Even if they're Democrat, Republican, you name it. It doesn't matter who they are, where they're from. They start to realize that the game is exactly as you put it. It's top down, and it always has been. And this stuff that divides us keeps us from recognizing it. But I do have hope we'll get there. I mean, literally, we have to. It's become way too obvious. The game is way too obvious at this point for more people not to pick up on it.
So how do we make that shift then? Because we've been put into these boxes. And I would argue we've put ourselves in these boxes. And I'll argue I'm part of that in that as well. How do we move beyond that? I'm on this team, or this is my flag, or how do you move beyond that? Because you're right, we have to figure out how to build that coalition of worker power to address these situations. How do you get past that then?
Well, I think it's all organizing and solidarity. The only thing that you can do in a time like this is to learn to trust other people and rely on other people, because obviously we're being told lies, conspiracy theories are being peddled left and right. The only way that we can actually make any sort of a change is for a massive sea change of a movement. And we've been told all along that's impossible. We're too scattered, we're too atomized. But I have to tell you, the more that this stuff starts to pick up momentum, the more hope that I have that we can start to do that. Because again, and I don't want to be dramatic here, but it's true, we really have no choice. Everything from climate change to corruption in government, big money taking over representative politics. Literally, we have no alternative besides building a bottom-up, grassroots, people-led movement that takes on corruption and money.
Yeah, I'm sharing your hope, just not your optimism.
No, I agree. And by the way, that's the other thing about it. I know that having a bunch of soaring rhetoric and talking about, no, guys, we can really do this thing, it doesn't make it happen. I will say, and I know that you've been on the political scene for long enough and observed it for long enough that you know this as well. This can't be a spectator thing anymore. This can't be us watching politics on TV. I mean, I have a podcast and media, and you have your media. Like, I know we're talking about this, and we want people to listen, and we want people to watch. But people can't just turn on CNN and MSNBC and hope that their heroes are going to make it better. Like, we have to get involved everywhere from local all the way up to national. And it's going to take a lot of work. It is not going to be easy. It really, truly isn't.
Yeah, and it means pushing back on those crazy conspiracies and having the conversations around them. Wow, going to be interesting times ahead.
Well, I mean, listen, interesting times. I love that you had to throw that in there. But it's about pointing out who uses these conspiracy theories, who weaponizes them, and what is the purpose. And the purpose is to throw people off the scent of the people who are profiting off of this exploitation and this oppression.
I'm with you. That's what we got. Let me last question I've got for you. Another hearing coming up on Thursday. What are the expectations there? More of the same kind of directing everything at Trump and his sphere. What are you expecting? What's the game plan, you think?
Well, my understanding is there's going to be a recess for a while. And listen, I love a cliffhanger as much as anybody. We need to get into some more of the big bombshells that are coming through. We need to see some more people with criminal intent. I have to imagine that after tomorrow, particularly, I mean, this is going to be possibly going up against for attention against the the downfall of Roe v. Wade. I mean, like, this is going to need to be something that comes with a lot of thunder, and it comes with a big bombshell sort of piece of information. I hope they have it. I hope they have something that will keep people talking about this and keep the attention of it, because right now it's an opportunity. These people have to be held accountable. I'm really hoping they're able to at least start something.
That is the hope. But Jared, I appreciate the time as always. Amazing stuff. Appreciate you taking time for us. I hope folks will check out the podcast, the Muckrake podcast. We'll get links out on social media. Also the book, American Rule, How a Nation Conquered the World and Failed Its People. Great stuff, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our good friend Jared Yates Sexton. Make sure you check out the podcast and the book. We'll get links out on how you can do that. We'll take a quick break right back after this. Stick around. You got thoughts? You got questions? I want to hear it. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. Right back after this.
Here we are again. An overseas conflict hikes up our gas prices, and oil CEOs rake in record profits. It will keep happening until we break free from oil. Right now, we need Congress to ramp up production of clean, renewable energy sources. Energy that doesn't run out, so it costs families less. Energy that's made here in America. Energy that can't be manipulated by erratic dictators across the globe. Because real energy independence is built on clean energy.
So evidently Susan Collins is going to be selling her house. Put her house in Maine up for sale. I guess she's looking for something a little smaller. Something a little smaller. Looking for something with a little more space. Something with less sidewalks, because she didn't want people writing messages on her sidewalk in chalk. Because you may remember that there were some activists who showed up at her house and said, "Hey, Susan, we'd like you to support this piece of legislation to make sure that abortion rights are protected for women." And she called the police, and the police came out and said, "No, there's no threat here." But they did call the Department of Public Works, and they cleaned her sidewalk. Evidently, she couldn't wait for it to rain. But now she's looking for a little more space, wants to get away from people. And protect her beloved sidewalks. Now, here's the thing. The days are ticking down until the expected road decision, and I'm personally, I think it's going to be the last day of the term, the end of June, as the Supreme Court justices flee Washington D.C. because this is going to be contentious. This is going to be one of those moments that. I don't think a lot of people thought would ever come. This is something that Republicans have been saying for a very long time. The dog's been chasing the car for a long time. It's now finally gonna catch the car. The question is it gonna chew the tires off the car and chew through the side? And the answer is yes. This is what I've been saying for years. When Republicans tell you they're going to do something, they're going to do it. Where I live in Pennsylvania, understand the guy who's running for governor here is going to pass right to work. This will be a no rights at work state, much like other states across this country who have lower standards of living, have lower wages, have less health care benefits, have lower retirement security, and much more dangerous workplaces. That's the future here, and it's going to happen if he's elected. Rick Scott has said, if we take power, we're going to move forward on an agenda to go after Social Security, to go after Medicare. Lindsey Graham has said, we've got to go after entitlements. That means lower cost of living adjustments At the minimum, that means they're going to attack those programs that help working class people. They've told you that. And again, this is where I keep coming back to these policies and these ideas that we should be organizing around. But we get caught up in these, my team. I vote for Democrats because, well, the other side is that bad. Do I think the Democrats are perfect? No. I think they're really bad at messaging for working class people and have been for a very long time. And I've said that for years. There's nothing new here for me. And I work to make them better because at least they're movable. At least we can get them to go, oh yeah, we should have labor rights. Oh yeah, we should take care of children. Oh yeah, we should help Granny put food on the table. Oh yeah, we should help with prescription drug prices. Oh yeah, we should help with energy prices. Oh yeah, we should do things. We should use government in a way that makes people's lives better instead of using it to make people's lives worse. Fundamental difference. And this is the moment that we're kind of in. And I like when Jared talks about, hey, we need to do the hard work of grassroots organizing, which is why, again, I talk about all the time, on election night 2020, while the country was, figuring out who the next president was going to be, counting votes, I was leading a strike of 55 workers against a multinational corporation in the area, of the majority of which, voted for Trump. Because their fight was the righteous one. Their fight was the right one, fighting corporate greed, fighting for better lives, fighting for better opportunities for their families. This is where we should be at. Not defending someone who is despicable. Not defending a corrupt system that has, and look, Jared's right. What we've been presented, while horrible and damning and jaw-dropping and incredible, still is protecting the elites, the moneyed interests. On January 6th, when the insurrection happened, I came on the air and I said, I want to know who funded this. I want the moneyed interests. I want the people who paid for the buses. I want the people who paid for all of the organizing that went into this. I want them because they did this. They're behind this. And we're not there. And that comes from us demanding it. Our problems are us. We're divided. We need to figure out how to come together. Just my thoughts. Love to hear yours. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Got lots to get to, lots to talk about. If you miss any of the program, make sure you download the podcast. Always there, always available at thericksmithshow.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Merrick Crichton's Navy SEAL, and today we're going rhino hunting.
Join us.
Not only was he the best presidential golfer in history, but you try pulling off those dance moves after a 2-hour rally.
The anti-intellectual, crypto-socialist woke left.
But I cried because I thought Georgia is communist.
All of these evil men, they ain't going to be voted out. They're going to be removed out.
Rhino feeds on corruption and is marked by the stripes of cowardice.
Whether it's literally flushing bad guys out, forcing them to move out of the community, or make them go underground, or get them fired from their jobs. Publicly humiliate them to render them ineffective, whatever it takes.
Don't let them do these tricks on you. It's like a magic trick.
What you're seeing is a complete and total lie. It's a complete and total fraud.
Join the MAGA crew. Get a rhino hunting permit. There's no bagging limit, no tagging limit, and it doesn't expire until we save our country.
I'm a Republican.
But we've got a problem in the Western Hemisphere with Marxism and totalitarianism.
Become best friends with Trump after he makes fun of you and your wife. Why do you do that?
So that's Republican votes leaving. That's a big problem.
Red flight.
He's out there saying stuff that just ain't true. You ever see anything like that?
There has never been a time in my life
where a president was more disconnected from the American people.
Okay, I'll spend $20 and buy a treasure chest full of coins.
Comfortable if you were wearing a mask?
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable if Biden wasn't president.
They actually said I'm the most popular person.
You know, I gotta tell you, I'm still struggling with the Rusty Bowers thing. But the weird thing is, look, I know so many people who will go on about how Trump didn't do the right thing, and how he's divisive, and how maybe we need to move along, and maybe the country needs a break, and maybe there's other leaders. But then I'd vote for it. Billy Barr. I mean, the same thing. And this is the weird thing for me. I don't understand this cult-like mentality. And I guess this is part of the difference between liberals and conservatives. Conservatives very, very black and white thinking, very yes, no, very loyal, disloyal, absolutists. And either you support them or you don't. For us or against us. The kind of Bush frame stuff. Whereas as liberals are a lot more gray area. I live my life in a lot of gray areas. There are very few hard absolutes. And especially in the political world, when you're talking about so many other inputs, there are no politicians. There is not one politician. There's some politicians I like. I like Bernie Sanders. I've liked him for years. He used to be a friend of the show. We used to have him on all the time when he was a congressman. Not perfect. We used to have a number of people on over the years that I liked. Phil Hare was a good friend for during the time when he was in Congress. Didn't agree on everything. As I've said, I don't agree with myself 100% of the time. But yet this blind faith loyalty to a guy who really was a con man. I mean, it's really remarkable. And it makes me think back to, some of the things that, you learned back in history class about the 30s, and about, a generation falling under the spell of these leaders like Hitler or Mussolini, and this kind of cult like following is really, it's interesting to watch in real time, because, while some, I've had a couple say, well, I just like him because he makes people mad, stir stuff up. And there are people who just like stirring stuff up. And I on a certain level, understand that. On a whole nother level, when you're talking about, how do we make better lives? How do we put better opportunities in place? How do we leave a better future for our children? I don't know how you go to a con man. I don't know how you go to somebody who's bankrupted almost everything he's touched. I don't know how you do that. But I guess it comes back down to the narratives and the stories you tell yourself. I guess it comes back down to the image that you have of that person. Very interesting times. Now, will he run again? I'm sure he's going to try. I'm sure he's going to keep pushing, but there's going to be a pivot here. Mark the words, and I've been saying this for a while. The Republicans are going to have to throw him under the bus. The more that this stuff comes out, the more Rusty Bowers we hear, even though Rusty, I won't vote for him again. I stop and think about this for a minute. They literally made his life a living hell. I mean, the stories he told about, just the abuse his family took. And then can you imagine what his wife, I can't imagine what my wife would say. Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's fascinating when you stop and you sit back and you think about it. The lengths that they'll go to. Because policy-wise, there's still nothing there. It's sheer power is what I keep coming back to. The fact that he won the election, the fact that they can exert this kind of pressure. the fact that a generation on the extreme right is under the spell. Is there hope? Is there a savior? Is there a way in reverse? I don't know, but I do foresee, as I said, I do foresee Bus meet Donald Trump. They're going to throw him under because they have to save themselves. At some point, it's going to have to happen. The F channel is going to have to do it because, oh, by the way, they're probably going to get sued out of existence at some point very soon by the good folks at Dominion Voting Systems. Because, oh, by the way, these hearings not doing all that great for their case. So lots of that. Anyway, if you missed any of today's program, thericksmithshow.com, that's where you go to get the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Subscribe to it, share it, like it, comment, all of that stuff. We appreciate it. If you missed any of it, make sure you get it. Also, you can email me, Rick at thericksmithshow.com. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.